CJ here. Welcome to CJ's Garage. We have a no start situation on a WEN 3500 portable generator with a 7 horsepower engine on it. We're going to troubleshoot it. We're going to check for three things. Does it have spark? Does it have air? Does the engine breathe? And does it have fuel? So those three components is what we need to get the engine to run. So if it's missing one of those components, the engine's not going to run. So usually my go-to is to spray a little bit of a gas in the carburetor or starting fluid and see if the motor starts. So we're going to start there. So let's get the air cleaner off and look into it. Now that we got the air filter exposed, before we take off the air filter, we're going to go ahead and try to start it to make sure it won't start. So we checked our fuel valve. The fuel valve is turned on right here. We're going to check to see if our on switch is on. And our on switch is on to the side. And we broke the pull strap earlier, so we have to get creative with the pull strap situation. So I came up with a drill. We're going to use a drill to try to start it. So let's see if we can get it started. Nope, no start situation still. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the air filter cover off and expose the carburetor, and we're going to troubleshoot it starting with the fuel. If you end up using a drill like this because you break your pull strap, just be very careful. As soon as the engine starts to start, you got to pull it off of the nut of the engine here. Otherwise, it's going to twist in your hand. So just be careful if you attempt to use this type of solution. Okay, now that we got the air filter off, several components here. Just take everything off of there, and you can see inside here, you can see the carburetor now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and spray starting fluid into the carburetor as we try to start it. And if the engine tries to start when we spray starting fluid in there, that means it's not getting fuel. So let's go ahead and make an attempt at doing that. And also, if you don't have starting fluid and you have a spray bottle, you can put some gas in. Make sure you have the right material in your spray bottle, otherwise the gas will eat through it. But you can also just spray some gas into the carburetor and try to start it. And if it tries to run, you know it's not getting fuel then. So let's give it a go here. It's a good sign. Well, maybe not a good sign, but see, it wanted to run when I sprayed starting fluid in it. So it's not getting proper fuel. So the next thing we're going to do is see why it's not getting fuel to the carburetor for the engine to run. So we're going to take the fuel line off here and see if we got gas coming out of the gas valve. Now that we shed some light on the situation here, we're going to go ahead and take this housing off to expose the carburetor and the fuel line better, so we can unhook the fuel line. There's going to be 2 bolts. We're going to take this bolt off here, and there's another bolt right there we're going to take off, and then this housing unit will expose the back side of it. So let's get that done. Now that I have those 2 bolts off for the filter housing off, there's also a breather line attachment that we need to unhook. And we also need to verify that this is clear and not plugged up at all also, because this is attached to your fuel tank up the top. And this can also stop your fuel from coming into your carburetor. And also on the back side of the housing, there is another little bolt right here, this little nut. So we need to take that off too before the housing will come off. So let's get that done. Now that we got the housing off, and we also verified that the breather line is clear, we blew through it, and the valve that's attached to the top of the tank is functioning properly. We took the hose off and verified that it's breathing and working properly. So let's go ahead and take this fuel line off of the carburetor and make sure we have fuel running through this fuel line to the carburetor. All right, we're going to unhook this fuel line. We got a bowl to catch the fuel if it comes out. We got the gas valve up here shut off. Give you a little better view here. Got the valve shut off. We're going to hook the fuel line and see if we can get fuel coming out of this. There we go, finally. All right, now let's open our gas valve and see if we got gas coming out. We do have gas coming out. So now what we need to do, that we have gas coming out here, so there's no problem in the tank. So more than likely the problem is right here in this carburetor. So we need to take this carburetor off of here and verify that the float and fuel is going into the flow area properly. So let's get that taken off. Looking at this carburetor setup, and now that the housing is off, this carburetor is pretty much just sitting on there. But we have a few springs and hard lines up here that we need to unhook from the carburetor and choke situation here. So let's get these 2 springs and 1 hard line unhooked here from the carburetor, and then we should be able to slide this right off and look into that carburetor. Now that we got the carburetor off, be careful. There's a gasket on the backside. You want to make sure you don't lose that. It's stuck onto the backside, so we're going to leave that on there, not bother it. One on the front side come right off, so just make sure it's clean and set it to the side. So let's go ahead and get this bottom bowl taken off and expose what's in here and see if we can clean it up and make sure all the orifices are working properly. Now that we got the float tore apart on the carburetor, this float valve works. Gas flows into this opening here, fills up the bowl in here. The float goes up and closes the valve, and it don't let fuel in anymore. And then the fuel goes out of the bowl. It opens the valve and lets fuel in. So we should be able to spray carb cleaner in here and then come out the bottom of the float valve down there. I know it's kind of hard to see, but you can see it coming out. See it dripping out of the bottom there? So the valve is working properly. So it's flowing through like it's supposed to. So now let's see if it flows from the bowl into the carburetor. I sprayed some in earlier, and you can see it coming in there. You can see it dripping in there. So it's flowing in there properly. So I'm just giving it a good spray both ways. Spraying carb cleaner in on this side, spray carb cleaner in on this side, make sure it's nice. Spray carb cleaner around the bowl area, around the float. Spray it through the opening there. And then also spray it through where your main gas line comes in, right here. We'll stick it in that hole, spray it in there. Make sure it's open so it flows through. And then it'll come out that jet in the bottom of the bowl. So spray a little bit through there just to make sure it's clear. So now we're going to put the bowl back together and we're going to put it back on the generator motor and we're going to try to start it. So let's get this done. Okay, we got the bowl put back on the bottom of the carburetor. We slid the carburetor back on. We got the hardline mechanism up here hooked back up, and the spring that's attached to it hooked back up here on both sides. So that's all good. After smelling the gas in this generator, a lot of times in these generators, they don't get used very much, so gas sits in them for long periods of time, and that usually is what causes the problem. So this gas smells really bad. We're going to go ahead and drain this gas out. I'm going to drain it into a separate container. Made a little hose attachment here to the existing line, and I'm going to put it down and put it in a jug down here at the bottom and drain the bad gas into there and just turn on the gas valve and let that drain out and put good fuel back in it before we try it out. So let's get that done. Now that we got the old gas drained off, before we put new gas on, we need to put the air filter carburetor housing back on and secure it to the carburetor and get the gas line back on. So let's get that done so we can get new gas back in it. Okay, we got the housing unit back on it. We have the gas line back on it. We got new gas in the tank. We got the gas valve on. We got all the carburetor lines hooked back up. Everything looks good. Let's go ahead and see if she'll fire for us. Okay, gas valve's on. On button is switched on. Let's see if she'll start. Let's take it off a choke. Let's try it again. Come on, baby. Struggling a little bit. It wants to run. Maybe I need to adjust the carburetor. I'll be right back. Go get my screwdriver. It's alive! Okay, guys, that's what it was. There's a little throttle adjustment on this side of the carburetor here. You can see it right there, a little throttle adjustment. I just screwed that in a little bit, and now she runs really good. Let's give her a preview here. Got the switch on, gas line's on. And that's how I fix a generator with a no-start situation. Gas, air, spark. That's for all engines, guys. Have a good day. CJ out.